Hi, it's Nancy welcoming you to Garden Scroll.
Today is April the 8th. In the morning is Easter Sunday. And so much has been going on in the garden. I'll take you around and show you a little bit of what's been happening. So I went around to the front gardens because I wanted to just start here, and I wanted to show you that it's all cleaned out now. All of the front is all cleaned out just the way I wanted it to be when I showed it to you last time. And I was so grateful that we had just that one little spot cleaned out. But now the front is cleaned out and ready to go. I even I had shown you that I took some little plants inside, but these did not come back, so I did plant some there. We have had a couple of cold nights, one that went below freezing for just a little while, so, and these were in there, so, but they look like they might come out of it. I hope they do. And not only here, but also on the other side. This is the side that we did have cleaned out the last time. Look how much this beautiful Bleeding Hearts plant has grown since then. It won't be long till it'll be putting little bleeding hearts on. But this is what I wanted to show you, that I also did put some new little clippings. These actually do not have a root. They may be making their root now, but when I put them in, they were just little clippings that I put in some rooting powder and stuck in the potting soil in these little pots. This one and the one on the other end right down here. So hopefully they will make it and grow up to be big and pretty as the ones that I did show you before, which have grown considerably since I showed you last time. They're looking great, and that's wonderful. I have had in the past, I've had to go ahead and make little clippings and restart these, but this winter was not a terribly hard winter on them, and they have came back. Also, my hostas are coming back, and I also purchased some more because there are places where I think there's a little one right here coming back too, but some of the places in the back do not have the hostas in them, and I'm quite sure that it was the snails that got them. But I have been using that Amdro, which has worked wonderfully for me. Not to say it kills them all, but it does knock them back enough that I can keep my little plants out here. And they are doing good. Also, look at this one, how big it is already. And some of them are not quite so big. You can see they're just now beginning to come up. Last year I was wanting to get my friend some of these, and I waited too long because it is just so hard to get everything done in a timely manner in the garden when you have a lot to do. And so I had waited until they were up like this one is now. Only this one is a part of that one I just showed you. And this is for one of my friends that I wanted to get her some last year and wasn't able to. But this time I made it a point to come out here. And this little one here, for some reason, it still fell off of its root. And so I just started it with rooting powder, and it looks like it's got a little root already started. And then this is just the red salvia that actually makes such a tall plant, about 3 foot tall and 3 foot wide, and sometimes even taller, a little taller. So it looks like a little bush by the end of the season. It may take it a little while because most perennials take a while to get established. It's like they say the first year they sleep, in the second year they creep, in the third year they leap. And if you've listened to any of my posts, you know it took me the 4th year before they did any leaping. But now they're established and looking great, and I can take little clippings off of them to give to my friends. Love this little hosta, that beautiful color, and my niece Deidre loved it too. I did give her some of this in previous years. I have, and then I've started it in 2 or 3, maybe more, actually more than that, 4 or 5 probably, little pot clippings that I've got started. They haven't gotten as big as this one yet. This is my first one that I've taken all the clippings off of, and it looks great right now. Several of my things that I ordered have came in, but my hostas have not yet. It won't be long though, most likely, before they'll be here too, and I'll be putting them in these back pots where nothing is growing right now. You can tell this one is, if I can get it where you can see it, but there is a little hosta coming up there, and there's a little one coming up here. And I'm noticing now that there is one back here too, so that's great. And then when we get the others and put them in and they get established, which hopefully they will this time, that I've got the snails more under control, and I hope I'll be able to keep them under control and then have hostas all along this little flower bed here. This little plant is a burning bush plant, which was every bit of 3 and probably more foot tall, and we had that 10-day freeze out in April last year. I think it was last year or the year before. Anyway, it's just now beginning to show back up and look like it may one day be a little bush again. There's a little peony in this pot, and I literally have peonies coming up all over the garden, and most of them are already bedded out. I cleaned out my seed boxes. I have not yet got seeds planted in there, but hopefully that will happen. This little area is all cleaned out, and I'll be wanting to plant it before long. I would love to get most or all, I'd love to get all of the garden cleaned out before I start very much planning, but that already isn't going to happen because I already got some orders in and planted them yesterday on Good Friday, and so glad I finally got those in. I was worried that I was going to let them rot in their little packaging. Not a good idea, but I had to get things done so I'd have a place to put them. And even then, when I planted, there were places I had to clear out of the old debris before I actually got the plant in. And you can tell that our pretty flowering almond bushes are practically gone now, as far as the pretty pink welcoming spring color. Little plant coming back here is a balloon flower. They're so lovely. I'm glad it's coming back. There's still a little bit of the flowering quincy left, but it won't be long. And this one is practically all gone as far as the color. You can see there's still a little bit there. And I also noticed that I do have a little one coming up here that I want to go ahead and dig out of there. And if I can find someone who wants it, they'll have a beautiful flowering quincy too, because I don't need 2 of these in the same area. But I'm so grateful to have all of this front done, and I wish all the back was done, but maybe it won't be too terribly long now before I get that done. It will be at least another week, I think, and maybe longer. Everything, if it's time or money, it just always seems to take more of it than you imagine it could. I didn't know if any of my little carpet phlox made it at all. I didn't think it did actually, but this did. My husband took a picture of it for me, and I love it. Of course I do. I wanted it growing here and hanging over these railroad ties all the way down, but I've tried for years to get it to do that, and it just hasn't. The voles or moles got in here at one point and got practically everything out of here, and then I think it maybe needs a little more moisture than I can keep out here, but I'll keep trying at some point. Probably not this year. I've got more plans than I can get done this year. I was noticing that this little blue spruce died out again in this pot. On this end, it's the same that was here on this end, which made it through. So I'll need to replace this again. And I think it may possibly have been because I put this in later in the season. I think it just needs to get more established. I read that about chrysanthemums, that you need to actually start them in the springtime so that they'll have their root established enough to come back. And it also said that they may, if you plant them in the spring, they may try to bloom in the spring, which I have some that have done that very thing. But if you want them to bloom in the fall, just clip off their bloom in the springtime and they'll bloom in the fall. This little blue spruce sedum did come back, as well as these in this little tiered pot. Actually, I think I put these in later in the season too, and I do need to put some there in the back, but it looks really good from the front. I'll just go around here and show you. It's very full, and I could easily take some of this out and put it in those places and hope to do that where it'll look good in all of the pots. This little area is also cleaned out now. And actually, this is where I took the little sedum starts to put in the window boxes. And I don't know if I can get this where you can see the honeybees, but maybe you can hear them. And I have all of the perimeter of the back gardens cleaned out, but there's a lot in the middle that's not cleaned out yet. But it feels so good just to have all the old dead stuff out from over here where I have cleaned it. Oh, look, and I did take the plastic off of the cactus. Actually, the bottom cactus was rotted, so I had to take these off of it and just put these little panicles down in some rooting powder and put them back in, and I think they're already got their little roots started and growing again. They look great. They look healthy. Also the same with this little one. It needed some help too, so I put this one back in here. I'm going to see if it will. I think it will build another little root, go down and put little panicles and go up, so I'm hoping that's what will happen. And then I also put some of the little ones that fell off of it here in the back part of this pot. This little tall phlox will grow up so tall it will cover all this little decor up that I have here. So actually what I'm going to do is dig that out. I may wait for a rain. We still have not had rain, and we need it so desperately. I've been trying to water a bit, but I have not watered nearly enough. Some of it hasn't even got water at all because I've been focusing on the new plants that I've put in to get the water. But I'm going to dig this one up and put it in an area where some of it for some reason has died out. And right here is where I saw a little hummingbird come and check out to see if I had left it anything to eat, which I had not got around to that. So he flew on off, or she. But they do love to perch on this little the little shepherd's hooks, or if you have a tomato cage in your yard somewhere, they love to perch on it. It's just right for them, and they will pick it out every time. I also noticed that my little blue jay decor has fallen off of its little spot, so I put some Gorilla Glue right there on the top of that, and I'm going to come back a little later after it sets up just a little, not too much, and set her up on top of that, and I think it'll look better setting up a little bit. Right here is another place where I started one of those little yellow green hostas. Can you hear the honeybees? Because I can hear them loud and clear, and it's just because we're under the redbud tree. I noticed that I have something coming back in here. I'm not sure what it is. It's probably just a Siberian iris, which I say just which I love them, so pretty. But I also at one time had cattails in here, but they didn't come back the last 2 years, so I'll see if it's actually them, or it's probably not. And then also I need to, this little turtle has lost its front leg, and then this little spot right here, a bird was there, so I'm going to try to get those glued back on also. So this is another spot that I've cleaned out. I planted this Aragonum Kent Beauty here last night. Some more of the peonies I was telling you about that's coming up and soon will bud. Some of them are. This one doesn't happen to have buds on it yet. This little plant is called an orange candlestick. Mine have not done it yet, but in the fall they are supposed to, and hopefully one day will, just put up a little panicle like a candlestick, just covered with orange berries. And I don't know if you remember what this looked like, but it was such a mess with old mum stems everywhere. But now it's cleaned out, as is everything over here under this weeping willow tree. I've got it all cleaned out. But you can't go much farther than that. And this little plant may be dead. This is a salvia. But I'm going to leave it for a little while and see what will become of it. Oh, I left my pot out here. I had some, I planted some things. Actually, you can see what I planted is this beautiful Helleborus or Lenten rose. So pretty. They are, when they bloom, they're pretty like that. I love these beautiful little foliage even. And there's the other one. I put one on either side, and I think when they grow up they will be pretty. And this is one of the poppies that does have buds on them, several buds, and it'll be a beautiful deep dark maroon red, and then the center of it has a little fluff of kind of a maize yellow, and it just really sets it off, and it's beautiful. Actually, I think I have 3 of these, maybe 4. I think I did actually divide one and put in the back where I had one to die. So now I should have probably 4 of this particular color and style of a peony. And then, of course, that's as far as it goes for cleaned out. Now we're getting into the already looking stuff. And this actually is a bare spot where I want some more of the tall phlox. You can see I've got some right here. And I did have this whole little area full of tall phlox, which I think I will again this year because I have plenty in places that I don't need that much. And I can always move them here. It's a great idea to have 2 or more of the plants you love. In case something happens to one, you can just divide the other one and move it, and then they both will fill out to the size of plant that they always get. They just know how big to get for some reason. And oh, look at this. This is it. The first bloom of the 2023 season. This is the beginning of coming out and seeing blooms everywhere, and you can tell there's going to be more of these blooms very soon. See all these buds. So anxious to get it all cleaned out. I always am every spring, and I truly do wish I could hire some of this done, because I just don't get it done in a timely manner because so much other stuff needs to be done now too, and I'm not getting it done because I'm using my time that I do have to clean out old dead stalks. But that needs to happen, so I'm going to keep that up. And let's see, I was going to show you something here, but I'm not sure what it was. So maybe I'll get back to that. Look at this sweet little bloom. This is a hardy geranium. I planted this last night too. Isn't it beautiful? Let's see if I can get it where the sun's not on it so much you can't see a little bit of the detail of that beautiful little bloom. And this is geranium cranesbill, and I don't know how to pronounce that, but there you go. That's how it's spelled. This is a beautiful little peony too, and I may need to divide this. It's not really quite big enough to divide. I don't like to divide them when they're small because there's a chance I would lose both of them, but I may do it because it's so pretty and it's just not seemingly doing well here. But sometimes they just take longer, and so don't give up on them. But it's looking, it's a beauty when it blooms. It's a red and white bloom, like striped like peppermint. And I pretty much have this little pot filled up with, this is kind of a bog garden. I put some plastic in the bottom of it so that it doesn't drain real well. It does drain, but it keeps the moisture on it longer and better, and that's what Siberian and of course the Japanese iris is like. And I did get 3 different Japanese iris, the dinner plate Japanese iris. I hope they really turn out to be that. And I got an ostrich fern to try here. I have not yet had luck getting my ostrich ferns or any of the ferns going, but I'm trying again this year on some of them. I decided to put it in a pot. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not. Usually they last through the winter much better just put in the ground, and I may eventually do that, but I thought, well, I'll try it in the pot where I can hopefully keep a better eye out on it and see how it will do. I was going to transplant some of my geraniums. This one is here from years gone by, and it came back, but they did not come back here. Last year they went ahead and died out here and here. I had them underneath all of these little plant stands with angels or fairies on top of them. So I put some more here. This one, you can't see the foliage on it, but you can see where it's newly planted there, and hopefully it will put its little foliage up soon. These are all a little bit different colors this time. I had them all alike before, which was pretty, but we'll try this and see how it will look. I like to change it up a little on occasion, just to give you something a little different to look at, and just to experience something a little different myself. I also noticed that my mum seems to have died out over here, so I did plant another one here, and I'm hoping that it will do well. I was trying to look and see. There was a few little scraggly pieces that I thought might possibly come back of the other one, but right now I'm not even seeing the this little spot has a plant in it. I can't really remember which plant I put here, but it came as a root only, so those do pretty well for me so far, like when you just put a root in, but it won't be long before it puts some little shoots up and then takes off and goes. In most cases, that's the way it is. And then, of course, I do not have this all cleaned out. Look at all this old dry material that I need to get rid of, but you can tell that a little mum did come back here, which is great. And just over a little ways, you can see that the lilac bush is beginning to put its lilacs on for the season. And there's so much here that needs to be cleaned out. I cleaned a little bit out on this spot because I started to put a peony here, and then I realized there is one there. It's just so small, and so it must have been put in just like last year or sometime early, or not too late. Not too long ago this one was put in, evidently. Or it could be just a little shoot, a little sprout off of another one, a seed. It could even just be a seed, which I think they do come up from seed, but it does take them much longer to get to being grown up, if you don't mind waiting that long, because it takes 3 or 4 years for them to really get a good enough size where they'll bloom and make a showing for you. This little thing needs to be cleaned off. And then I think I had two right here close together, and I think I'm going to take this one down and put it in one of my pots. And then this is a new plant here. I believe this is a lavender penstemon, which will be great. I love the penstemons if they will live. Sometimes I have a hard time getting them to establish and keep going, but then other times they can make a little colony and just keep going, which I love. Yes, right here is an example of that. It's just kept going and going, and when it does get big and tall and blooms in the late summer, it will just make a beautiful little showing here. And I'm thinking about moving some of this to some of the different areas, but I've got to get things cleaned up first so I can see what is a good area that needs something else in it. And also I was going to say, these they do make a little colony, but they pretty much stay close to each other. They don't just become so invasive that you wish you hadn't planted it there in the first place. They seem to be just a wonderful little plant. And this is one of the roses that I don't yet have clipped back. I want to do that soon, hopefully this next week. I'm going to have to take a little break from doing it today. I have so much computer work and other things I've just got to take care of, and then also I just don't want to be so tired I can't move for Easter Sunday in the morning. So we'll see how that will go, because it's just sometimes a day off is not enough, because I get so tired and sore out here doing this job. It's just about too hard for me, but as long as I can, I will. This is another little new plant that I put out here. It looks like the sun has already taken a toll on it, but hopefully it will do well. I think this is actually one that I broke off of the mother plant because it had a little root already, and I thought I'm going to try putting that in that pot and seeing how it will do there. I think this is another one of those that with that pretty little pink bloom that I just showed you, which will be perfect in this pot if it should work out for me. And then right behind it there's another peony. This is actually the biggest bloom that I have. When it blooms, it is gigantic and beautiful, but it does not last very long. None of the peonies do, but this one so far has lasted the shortest length of time. But they're so worth having in the garden. They're so beautiful, and they come back every year. My new little Portugilla, or however you say this, but it's a beautiful little bush. It's pretty in the spring with the little white tufts, but it's the fall when it really shines with so many beautiful fall colors on one little bush. Oh, I hope it makes it. I've tried several of them before, and I just haven't got them to get established, but I'm still hoping for them to get established in the garden and to look great. My black and blue salvia is coming back, which is also great. Of course, I'm anxious to get to the pots to fill them out and have beautiful color in them and see what kind of plants I'm going to end up putting in them this year. I was so hoping this would come back. It is supposed to, but it didn't come back in this little pot. And I think it may have possibly been because we had such a dry winter and a dry spring so far. But I wish it would. It was a beautiful orange Agastiki, and I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but it's like a hummingbird mint. That's the other name for it. This little spot has an enchop, ENCHOP, that I just planted last night too, and it's such a pretty little plant. It has a bloom that's a perfect circle, and it's just a little bit like it's neon bright in the sunlight. And the seeds, the doves love. They will be out here when they go to seed, and they'll be walking around because they're ground feeders, and they will find all of the seed for me, which is great too. I don't really want them to get invasive, but I would like to always have some. They're perennial, so it should come back, so shouldn't be a problem. But everywhere there's pots that need to be filled up, and I will get to that hopefully. But right now my main thing is truly just to get some of the old dead debris out of the garden. I should say my lilac is the first bloom of the season because it actually started building its little purple bud. But you can tell these are really still just in the bud stage. So I'm going to call that clematis the first bloom. But it won't be long till these follow suit. Oh yes, and we painted the little bistro set, and it looks so good. And I'll show you what I did to the one chair that was broken. And I know it may not be good enough for you because you can tell it's absolutely been fixed, but it is holding together. It feels nice and tight. I used just a foam filler on it and then painted it green with the rest of it. And I just like that. I like it better than having to throw this in the landfill somewhere or whatever to do with it. And it doesn't have to be thrown away. It's true that I'm frugal enough that I like it, that it didn't cost me more money than just the paint that I put on it. But also I just like not throwing away something that's been out in my garden and I've enjoyed it. I just want to keep it as long as I can. And my husband chopped down this part of the tree that was out too far into our, close enough to the pathway that you could barely get by it, and it was leaning down so low. It was not a good idea to leave it here. And this little shoot is coming up, so we're going to give it a chance to let this part of it live. And as I'm saying that, I'm seeing that there might be a part even of it that's not alive, so I need to take that off and give the rest of it a good chance to live and do well. Besides needing to clean out a bunch more things, I also need to divide some things. Remember, I wanted to do this last year, but because I was so busy trying to get the party ready, I had to let this go, and I was going to divide this little plant and move it around in some different areas too. Let's see if I got the right one there, this one right here. But I did not get to do that, so I'm going to stop, or I've already decided to stop doing the garden parties unless I can get this to where it'll make enough money to be able to hire someone to help me with some of it so that I can still do the get together things too. But if not, that will be fine, because my main thing is just to have the garden and to show it to you on YouTube, because gardens are for sharing. You know, all this beauty, it needs to be shared with someone. There is just totally more to do in the springtime especially than I can get done. And then the fall is the busy time too, but it's not quite as busy, but it could get that way depending on how many things needed to be dug up and divided and put in different places. Like this little daylily right here, it's about to get too bunched up there, and they will stop growing and they will actually choke themselves out if you don't divide them. They must be divided. I did order another one of this. This is a beautiful, I think it's called a Warsaw Nike. I'm not sure about that, but it's a beautiful deep dark purple, almost black. And this one, I had one over here, but it didn't make it, so I'm going to try that again to get it growing up this side. And then the one there in the back, that one is a blue, a beautiful blue clematis. This is some of the Chinese dunce cap, and you can tell it's looking pitiful right now, but it won't stay that way. I'm pretty sure it takes it a while to come out of dormancy, so don't just throw it away and decide to put something else there, because it will most likely come out of it and just be gorgeous. You can tell these right here on the edge are already looking pretty good. And my plan for these little pots is to put sedums in them. This is a new one. I actually I think I did purchase some of this last year and it didn't make it, but I'm hoping it will this time. It's called Pinky. It has some little pink and white in amongst the green, and it shows to be just beautiful. I don't know if I've seen it in real, but in the catalogs it certainly caught my eye. My plan is definitely to use more sedums in this type of thing. I'll have to redo this whole pot here and put something in it, some type of sedum or succulent, I'm pretty sure, because I need something that won't just die if I don't get it watered absolutely every day. And so I think these will be beautiful and not so hard to take care of. I started a little one here and it did make it. It will fill out probably most of this pot. I may put something in the back side of it, or I may actually just divide this and put it in little sprigs all around this container, and it won't take it too long before it will fill this little container up. Well, I poked some down in this one, which may not make it. I just put them in there quickly while I They had fallen off of another little plant while I was cleaning it up. So they may not, but these are easy. I had to do a battery change, but I was saying the little sedums, this one is I think this one is Autumn Joy, so it's not actually a little sedum, but they usually do well in pots and even come back in pots after being overwintered. You probably do want one in the ground just in case that doesn't happen, and you can take a cutting from the one you have in the ground. But most usually they do come back in pots, and they don't have to have a whole lot of water, so they're not so hard to take care of as something else, like even the beautiful, I love to put coleus in these and have all that beautiful color. But I was thinking that perhaps I will get some started in the front where I can just kind of group them together and water that one area, and then in the fall when the weather's cooler, if there's time, to transfer some of those back here. Oh, and I might say that the little decor that was right here, my little sleeping angel or cherub, got destroyed when the tree limb was cut off. But it's okay, we'll see what we can do. My husband said he would buy me another, and I said, I know. So we winked at each other and went on. But it's always so much fun to go look at all the new plants and all the new decor they have out for the new season, and I love it all. So I usually try to get some each season. You can tell I've got it everywhere, but I do love it, and I do want to take care of it the best I can to keep it as long as I can. This little sedum came back from last year. Oh, except I think, well, there's one of them, I don't remember if it's this one or this one, that I put in just recently, but all the rest of them, or the other two pieces, came back from last year, and they will fill out, and this whole pot will be full before too long. It may be a couple of years for it to do that, but it will get full and beautiful. I actually also noticed that I do have some of the little seeds that I planted out here coming up, so that's great. I hope they keep growing and doing well. Oh, I'm seeing that this little plant right here needs a drink. They can't go long without water when they're newly put in. They've got to get that root down and get established somewhat at least. This is another one of the beautiful penstemons. This one is called a rose penstemon. And I've already got my pot filled with water out here, or my container. What do you call these? Watering pitchers. So anyway, I have this out here, and I'm going to go put some water on that right now. I have learned to do that because you can't always take the time to move the hose all the way around the yard from one spot to the next, and then do it again when you're going to water everything. So actually what I'm going to, it just makes it a lot easier to have one sitting out here full of water. When you see one's in desperate need of some water, you can just quickly give it a drink. Look at this little sedum that came back from last year, even in a pot. So see, they just seem to do well for that. And so I may even take some of this one and put it in one of those pots alongside the fence row. Get those where they're a little easier taken care of. And I did just go ahead and water this little plant. Hopefully it'll perk right up before very long. And if you just can remember to fill your pot up as you go around watering when you do carry the water hose around the whole garden. And if you have it filled up and ready to go again when it's needed. This This is another of the Chinese dunce cap, which is doing great on this side, but I don't think there's even any little powdery ones there that will come back on this side. So we may have to transplant some later on when they're big enough to do that. This is another spot where the tall phlox is just so thick that I could definitely take some of this out and put in the places where I don't have any or where it needs to have a little thicker. But one thing you need to do, this is about as tall as you want it to get before you try digging this up, because it's just too hard after that, in my opinion. So maybe if you have certain tools or something, but for me, I just need to do it while they're young and tender so that I can move them easily enough. And I don't know if you can see, but there's another beautiful little peony right there. I might need to trim that rose a bit so that it won't get on the peony, but it's right there. And this is a beautiful one of my Itoth peonies. I think it's the yellow one. So welcome spring. It does feel wonderful, although sometimes spring is so busy and so hard on the old body that you forget that it's even wonderful. But there are little things that certainly remind you.
Please be sure to like and to subscribe to the channel.